Hello friends, today I would like to talk to you about one of my favorite topics in the world, and that is the way in which our states of mind and body and our states of breath are connected. I get a ton of questions from people who are finding themselves in an undesirable state, and they usually say, I'm in the wrong state. Well, first of all, there are no wrong states. Everything you can experience, every state that you can be in, is there with a reason. It's there because of millions of years of natural selection, and every single state that you can have, everything you can experience, has been selected to serve you, to have some kind of function. Even the things that we have deemed entirely undesirable, things like grief and shame and pain and stress, all of these are messengers, right? So every state that you can be in is there to serve you in some way, to signal something, to signal danger, to trigger a survival response in you. So that's a very important thing to start with, is to realize there are not really any wrong states. There's undesirable states, and there's definitely states that we like to avoid. But the main issue is if we get into a state of being that doesn't match the state of what we want to be and what we want to do. So for example, being tired, there's nothing wrong with the state of being tired. Actually, it's a great state. If you are in your bed, it's Sunday night, and you want to go to sleep, then being tired is the perfect state. And being very alert and active and having an active mind and connecting all the dots and thinking about the future, that's a great state when it's Monday morning and you have your laptop open and your cup of coffee and you're ready to kick ass. Perfect. If those two switch, then you're in trouble, right? So if you want to go to sleep, but your mind is active and you're thinking about the future and you're connecting the dots, not so good. And then the next morning, of course, you're going to be tired and you're going to want to sleep while you actually need to have your brain active and ready to kick ass and, connecting all the dots. So whenever our state that we're in doesn't match the state that we want to be in, we tend to suffer. And a lot of people ask me, how do I change this? I also talk to a lot of coaches who basically realize that their clients aren't in a very coachable state. They get defensive, or they're kind of like looking at the clock the whole time, or they're just looking for a way out. They're coming up with excuses. Well, understanding how your client's breath influences their state of mind and body and the extent to which that they're coachable is essential to coaching practice. So today, I would like to share one core base principle that links to all of these different questions and topics. And of course, there's a lot to be said about it, but I'm going to keep it short and simple with this wonderful principle. So first of all, we all understand intuitively and through experiences in our life and just through, living, we understand that there is a state of mind and body and that it is linked to a state of breath, right? So the direction of you are in a state of mind and body and the breath follows, we all know this. And there are a few very familiar things. Let's start with a really intense one, like for example, panic. If you are in a state of panic, you will have a breath of hyperventilation. And hyperventilation can occur acutely, but it can also occur chronically. So for example, if you're in a state of anxiety, if you're feeling anxious, and especially if you are chronically feeling anxious, you will have more of a chronic hyperventilation. So acute hyperventilation in a panic attack, everybody knows what that looks like. It's like really intense on the inhale, moving with the chest, breathing from the scalenes, from the neck muscles, accessory muscles, a very stressful state, a very intense, high up breathing state. And then, of course, with anxiety, there's a chronic version of that that's much smaller, but it's still happening in the chest and in the neck, and there's a lot of tension involved. It's usually faster than it needs to be, a lot more through the mouth than it needs to be, right? So anxiety comes with chronic hyperventilation. Now, there's other things like, for example, if you're very active, let's say you're in a workout, right? And your mind and body are all the way in that workout. You're just like, boom, doing it. Then at some point, you will start to pant, right? So you shift your body from being sedentary to going into a workout, which means you shift your metabolism, your energy levels to a higher energy necessity. And then your body will just start to work and create the gas exchange that allows for your body to do that work. So we know you change the state of your mind and body, and a state of breath will naturally follow autonomously. So this direction is autopilot. Your body just does it. Autonomic nervous system. Now, There's a few other examples, like for example, relief is a very, very well-known one. If you are relieved, you will have a sigh of relief, right? And then there's a lot of emotions, and emotions tend to have almost like a breath signature, I'd like to say. And it's a signature because it's unique and you can recognize it at a distance, right? You can hear somebody that you can't even see. You can hear somebody like around the corner and they're breathing in a certain way, and you know which state they're in, whether they're sad, whether they're angry, whether they're anxious, whether they're panicking, sadness, crying, for example. It's such a signature breath, and you immediately recognize it. And the difference in breath rhythm between laughter and crying and anger and orgasm, and euphoria aren't that big, but we all understand exactly what that is. Like, it speaks more than 1,000 words in a way, right? A breath says more than 1,000 words. I should write that down. That's my quote. Don't steal it. Okay. Anyway, so emotions have their signature. And then of course, if you're very relaxed, if you're feeling relaxed, you will breathe more through your nose, and it will be slow, and you'll have good movement of the diaphragm. So there's all these examples. So we have learned that there's that direction, and it makes sense because, like I said in the example of the workout, as soon as you increase the energy demand in the body, it means that at a cellular level you need to start producing more energy, and at a cellular level that means that the cell starts to have gas exchange. There needs to be oxygen coming in and CO2 being given off, and that process is called respiration. So literally, the way that you produce energy at a cellular level is respiration, breathing of your cells, which means that you also need respiration or ventilation in your lungs because you need gas exchange with the outside world. And every level of activity has a level of energy that it needs to come with. So that's a very physiological way of looking at it. But actually, there's also a lot of good science and people much smarter than me who have figured out that there are very specific patterns in the brain that science is only just starting to figure out that are linked to very specific patterns of breath. And there's this constant communication between your brain and your heart and your breathing mechanics, where there's always a direct link between the breathing pattern, the heart rhythm, and whether there's coherence, and the state of the brain. And there's some places in the centers in the brain that have been pointed out, like in the brainstem, where breathing rhythms, as soon as a breathing rhythm changes even on the slightest little detail, then also these neurons start firing differently, and it looks like the whole brain is even involved in regulating breathing patterns. There's amazing science on this, but the point is, what all this science is pointing at is that these two are linked. The state of our mind and body and the state of our breath are linked. What we haven't learned, so we understand this, right? It works in that direction. And I can go into the science of that in a later video. But here's the most important thing to me. What we haven't learned is that it also works in that direction, and that is the role of conscious breathing. So a conscious breathing intervention, consciously changing the state of your breath, will also cause your state of mind and body to shift. It has to happen. It's a two-way street. So the example of going into a workout and then having to pant makes total sense. Now imagine it the other way around. You come out of the workout and you want to relax. If you then consciously start to slow down your breathing, focus on your exhales, switch to nasal breathing, then you will actually create a rhythm that tells the body to slow down. First of all, slowing down your exhales will stimulate the vagus nerve, which is the part of the parasympathetic nervous system that calms down your body, slows down your heart rate, puts you in a more restful state. Also, as soon as you start to slow down your breath, you're limiting the amount of oxygen in your body, which means less oxygen coming in. CO2 will start to raise, which is another trigger for the body to go, oh, wait, we can't make a ton more energy with this. We should calm down. Heart rate should go down and everything should come to a lower level of energy. So your breath, as I like to say, is the first responder of your nervous system. Because as soon as your state of being changes, there has to be a level of energy accompanying that, and a state of mind and body needs to be created through neurochemistry and through biology, through physiology. So as soon as you start to change your breath, then through kind of that domino effect on the other side, your state of mind and body needs to also change. So if you're finding yourself in a very stressful state, if you're finding yourself in an anxious state, if you're more stressed and active than you want to be, and you're noticing that your breath is also increased, right? Your breath rate is increased, you're maybe breathing through your chest and your mouth, then all you really need to do is breathe in a way that tells your body that you're relaxed, because breathing can be that input information for your nervous system that then tells it to slow down. Like I said, the ingredients for relaxing are nasal breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, slower breathing, and focusing on the exhale. So as soon as you start to do that and you repeat it, you can calm yourself down. All right, I can go for hours about different breathing techniques to do this, but this is really the core principle. State of mind and body creates a state of breath, and with every state of mind and body comes a state of breath. And if you sort out that state of breath and find a way to practice it consciously, you can start to consciously change your state of mind and body, instead of your state of mind and body always subconsciously on the autopilot changing your state of breath. Of course, there's always a collaboration between the two, and there's only so much you can do. There's limits to this, but there's way, way more possible than what most people know. In a good breathing therapy session, in a therapeutic breathing session, you could find a crying breathing pattern that works for you. And I see clients cry for the first time in years, for example. All right, so you can even zoom in on specific emotions. All of that for later videos. For today, remember, as soon as you consciously start to breathe, you can consciously shift your state. Focus on your nose, on calm breathing, using your diaphragm. And as soon as you find yourself in a stressful state, remember that, anchor yourself and bring yourself back down. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram @CaspersFocus. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.